Good afternoon and welcome to
Good afternoon and welcome to another family engagement broadcast. And with us is Ms. Shannon Mazey from Universal Learning Academy, a school counselor. Welcome, Ms. Shannon.
Thank you for having me today, Mr. Sharafuddin.
Ms. Mazey is a graduate of Grand Valley State University, and she is a school counselor at Universal Learning Academy, one of HES Academies, located in Westland. She works with all students from kindergarten to 12th grade and helps students find personal, social, and academic success through goal setting and solution-focused counseling. She also works to help students build lifelong skills, including organization and time management skills, social skills, and conflict resolution skills. Today, she'll be talking about tools for success, academic study skills, and effective communication at a very good time coming to at the end of semester 2 with some final examinations coming up. Without further ado, Miss Mazey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharafuddin. Hello, families and parents. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. So, like Mr. Sharafuddin mentioned, we will be going over some tools for success for students. And while we are primarily relating the tools we're talking about today to their academic skills right now and studying, they are skills that can go long-term through college and careers and any other post-secondary opportunities our students pursue. So these are really important for our students to brush up on and start refining now so that in the future they're ready to go. As Mr. Sharafuddin said, I am in my third year working at ULA, and I do work with all students kindergarten through 12th grade. So the skills we talk about today can be revised for children of different ages and advanced for students at older ages. So as an agenda today, we're going to review some of the importance of study skills and why we teach these to our students. We're going to talk about the different types of study skills that our students may need. We're going to go through maximizing focus and minimizing stress, two things that go hand in hand, and I hear about a lot from our students when they email me and request meetings. Attendance is an important factor, and we're going to talk about why it's an important factor for student study skills. I'm going to talk a little about the academic monitoring and the supports that we provide at ULA and in HES as a whole. We're going to go through some effective communication skills in our second half of the presentation, and then at the end, we'll have some time for questions. So why do study skills matter for our students? And the base reason is because the stronger study skills students have, the better that they're going to learn. So when students have strong time management skills, organizational skills, and an enhanced sense of responsibility and accountability, they're going to be able to learn better. And when students are able to learn more effectively, teachers can teach more effectively. When students are grasping material and understanding content, teachers then have the ability to build on that content, to challenge students, to help them to grow and learn and be stronger academically. And that helps the classroom as a whole be a more refined environment to learn in. And of course, the study skills, like I said, they translate to lifelong learning and they can be adjusted for college, for careers, for other types of post-secondary training available after high school, and even for social and personal lives as students get older and make friends. So the first set of study skills I want to talk about, it's a little bit of an abstract skill, but it is how to create a consistent study space that is conducive for learning. Obviously, when we're in the school buildings, we have classrooms and libraries that are obvious study spaces. They have solid desks with chairs to sit in. They have books and materials and resources ready for student learning. But since we've had to transition to virtual learning, the study space has looked different for all of us. Some students are studying at the dining room table, others may have desks or are using like entertainment centers, something to study on, or even they're in their bed with a laptop like tray that they're able to place their materials on. But as long as students have a space that they know is designated for studying and an environment around them that allows for that, that's really important to sort of separate, especially learning from home, what is learning and what is relaxing or taking time for yourself or completing other household responsibilities. So some important components of a consistent and conducive study space include having a quiet space, something away from road noise, television, radio noise, social media, and even siblings or other family members who may be working and learning from home. While this may be difficult to achieve, headphones can be a big help to that, or earbuds or something that can help block out some of the extra noise. Obviously, it's probably not always silent, but the headphones can help. Additionally, it's important to have a solid writing surface for students to have their Chromebook and their academic materials ready to go. Sitting on a bed, as comfortable as that can be, the computer may not be easier to use. It may be squishing materials into the bed, and it can be a little difficult to focus that way. But when a student has a solid study space with a chair and that is comfortable, but maybe not too comfortable, it allows students to be able to focus and be ready to learn. And of course, it's important to have all their materials just like they would in the regular classroom. There's notebooks, pencils, agendas, anything to make sure that they're ready to take notes, to do their homework, and they're prepared to move forward in their day. As I said, it's important to have a comfortable space. The students are in the same spot learning for a large part of the day. And it's not like in the building where maybe they're walking class to class. All of their classes are happening right in front of them. So it's important that it's comfortable enough that they don't mind being there, but not so comfortable like a bed or a comfortable couch or recliner where they may start to lose some of that focus. And to keep them away from distractions is important as well. Keeping away from television, social media, excessive music or noise helps them focus in on their studies so that, again, they know when it's time to study and when it's time to go do other things during the day. And finally, good lighting is incredibly important, whether it's natural lighting from windows or lamps or lights in the room. This helps take some of the strain off the eyes, which is already there since we are using electronics to help our learning and to participate in learning. So the more we can take the strain off of that, students will be able to focus better on what they're learning in class. Secondly, I did mention note-taking just then. It's really important for students to consistently take notes in class. It helps them retain material and understand information. Furthermore, it helps them monitor when they have questions or when they don't understand what their teacher's saying so that they know how to highlight or underline, and then they can go back to that and ask at an appropriate time. So students can still use paper and pencil if that's what they're comfortable with doing, if they have a notebook or some loose leaf paper. But of course, being on the computer, they have access to Google Docs or Microsoft Word, which they can open up and then save everything right on their computer so that they can go back and forth for different classes. Additionally, these three main points all sort of go together in study skills. So the first one is an agenda, something that they can keep track of important dates, assignments, and tasks that they need to complete. Again, can be paper or electronic. There are Google Calendar and other calendar apps, as well as agenda apps, both on phones and on the computers. Or if they have a paper agenda that's got dates and calendars set up ready for them to write down and keep track of things. And this is a great organizational tool. We encourage it in the buildings as well. Usually we hand out a student agenda at the beginning of each year, and it just helps the students take a little responsibility in making sure that they are writing down assignments, keeping track of dates, and it can really help them to stay organized, not only daily and weekly, but monthly. So we're thinking some long term here. Secondly, goal setting is incredibly important for study skills so that students know what to expect of themselves and they can relate what they expect of themselves to what their teachers are expecting. So when they write down an assignment, they say they have a test coming up a week from today, they're able to write that date down and then go back, say, okay, what do I need to do each day to be ready for this test in a week? And when students are setting goals, they're taking a large responsibility or task or test and breaking it down into smaller, reasonable chunks that they can manage independently. So goals should be specific, reasonable, and they should include a time frame for completion and at the end of the completion, an incentive of some kind. So what this looks like, using the example of having a test in a week, a student may say that they want to study for this test 20 minutes a day, every day, and then after they take the test, they get a reward of some kind, whether it is time on an electronic, playing video games, extra time outside if it's a nice day, or something else that they may enjoy. So that is specific in that they know what they want to study, how long they want to study, how often they want to study, and what they get when they're done. And as a family, I think it's cool to be a part of the incentive piece. So that's where it's a nice way to get involved with helping your students develop those study skills is that, you know, maybe when they complete the test after studying every day, they've reached their goal, they've finished the final task. Maybe you allow them to pick a game for family game night or an activity to do together. They get to pick dinner for the evening, something like that that they enjoy that you can do as a family. And that really helps with some of that socializing aspect that can help with some of the reduction of stress, which we're going to talk about in a minute here. And finally, third is time management. This is an incredibly important skill that is very tough to develop. You know, it's tough for adults. I've seen it's tough for students. But the sooner they start to realistically think about how much time it takes to accomplish tasks and how they learn to manage their time, it can really improve how much work they're able to do and the success that they see in the assignments they accomplish. So in time management, it's important, of course, to set aside time for studying and doing homework and to realistically set aside that time. For all students, assignments take different amounts of time based on ability, based on extra help, based on their understanding of the material and other factors as well. So it's important for students to realistically set aside an amount of time that they are willing and able to commit to doing an assignment, and then to also make time for breaks and meals throughout the day. You know, doing homework online and school online can be very draining. So to make sure that students are making time for breaks, even if it's 5 minutes at a time, where they can go for a quick walk, get a snack, use the restroom, take a few deep breaths, and then come back to their materials can really help them to focus in, complete their work, and then feel more accomplished when they're done. So as I said, stress and having trouble focusing are two common things that I hear about from students, especially as we've transitioned to virtual learning. Students are experiencing higher levels of stress, I've noticed, but they're also reaching out for help on that, which is incredibly important. So if students, if your children ever mention that they are having trouble focusing in class or that they're feeling really stressed out, please encourage them to reach out to their counselors, their teachers, other trusted adults, reach out to you all to look for support and advice in how to manage that. So we're going to talk about that a little today so you can help them out at home as much as we're helping them out in the school with that. And there are a lot of ways to manage stress and focus at the same time, because usually when you're less stressed and you're more relaxed, your focus is better able to take over. So we're going to talk about taking care of some basic bodily needs: sleep, eating, and drinking water. These three things are so important to the way your body functions and focuses. And when these three things are not adequately taken care of, that is when stress can really take over and where it can be really hard to manage or minimize that stress and go back to what you need to be doing. And I'm sure that's something we have all experienced. So first of all, 8 hours of sleep every night is so important for students. And while they may have difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, ways to combat that is to create a sleep schedule. So for students, if they have a set bedtime, that's really important. And say that bedtime is 9 o'clock, 1 hour before their bedtime, so 8 o'clock in this example, is when they should start doing regular routine tasks to get themselves in the mindset that they are ready to go to sleep. And those things may include having a snack, drinking water, brushing their hair or their teeth, taking a shower, washing their face, anything like that that starts to soothe the body and the mind and remind the students that it's time to get ready to go to bed. And then I like to suggest that 20 to 30 minutes prior to their bedtime, where they should be in bed with the lights off, starting to fall asleep, I recommend that students do 20 to 30 minutes of a non-electronic activity, especially with the increased technology we're using for school, entertainment, social media. It's important to find non-electronic activities that students enjoy doing right before bedtime, as that helps relax their mind. With using technology, if students are scrolling through their phones or a laptop right before bed, That's a lot of stimulation for the eyes and the brain, and that can make it really hard for students' minds to wind down and go to sleep when they need to. And that can start some of the stress of, oh, I'm not getting enough sleep, I'm not getting enough sleep. But if they do 20 to 30 minutes of examples being writing in a journal, reading, writing poetry, coloring, crocheting, knitting, anything like that, where it is low stress, it's something they enjoy, and it's not electronic, that can really help students' mindsets be more relaxed and help them fall asleep and stay asleep easier. Additionally, if your students are apt to taking naps during the day, I recommend keeping it less than 45 minutes, and so does research has shown that less than 45 minutes is a plenty of time for a nap, and then students can still sleep at night, and it shouldn't be a nap after 5 p.m. After 5 p.m., it's going to start taking away from that ability to fall asleep and stay asleep adequately. Secondly, eating throughout the day and drinking water. Students need to take care of their body in order to take care of their mind. So they should be eating throughout the day, both meals and snacks, staying away maybe from the high sugar or high caloric snacks, and eating things like fruit, vegetables, crackers, nuts, cheese, things that they enjoy that are good and nutritious for their body. And then ideally throughout the day, drinking 8-ounce glasses at least of water per day to keep them hydrated and well focused. And lastly, if they can avoid excess sugar and especially caffeine, that is wonderful for their diets and their health. And it also minimizes stress and anxiety by getting rid of, it doesn't cause that jittery feeling. So when students have caffeine or excess sugar, maybe we've all been there, and you get that anxious, jittery feeling, and it makes it really hard to focus on what you need to be doing for your studies. Additionally, here's a few more ideas for maximizing focus and minimizing stress. So we mentioned the consistent study space. That is another way, like goal setting, to set expectations, which I also have on this page. It sets expectations for this is a place to study and this is what I need to be doing. And it brings the focus back in. Secondly, movement breaks and exercise. So movement breaks are 1 to 2 minute activities that students can do during their live sessions. So they would mute themselves, make sure their camera is off, stand up in front of their camera so that way they're still paying attention to their session, so that they're not a distraction to others. But since their camera's off, they're able to take a minute or two to stretch, to do some jumping jacks, run in place, shake it out, do a little dance, but something for a minute or two to get their blood and oxygen flowing more frequently through their body, get their heart rate up a little bit, and it just helps them breathe deeply, move their blood and oxygen through their body, and helps them refocus, especially if they're feeling a little groggy or a little tense in their muscles. This is a great way to kind of break that up without taking away from the lesson or distracting others. Additionally, after school, if the students like to go outside, go for a walk or a jog around the block, play sports in the backyard with friends or siblings, but find an exercise to do that will help promote some positive endorphins, which help to minimize some of the stress. So that's stress relief all over the place. And, today's not the most beautiful day, so maybe those movement breaks are a better idea than going outside to play soccer. But it's a good way for students to take advantage and take a break from being on their screens and being inside all day. We mentioned goal setting yet again. It just takes away that shock that students may feel if they forget something. So there's not maybe no, but limited ability to forget about a test or forget about an assignment if students are setting goals and writing things down. So it sets the expectation and takes away some of the surprise that may come from forgetting an assignment. And the last two are positive self-talk and self-advocacy. These are two very advanced and often difficult skills to acquire, but it takes time and it's very impactful in the end. It really helps with minimizing stress, especially. So through positive self-talk, students are thinking to themselves about the things they are doing well. They, can talk with themselves about their skills, their abilities, their talents, the things that they're good at. They can remind themselves that I am good enough, I am smart enough, I can do this, I am able to do this on my own or with some help. but it takes away from some of the more stressful self-talks that may sound like, I don't get this, I don't want to do this, I can't do this. And that's something that we've all experienced, and I hear it from our students when I have meetings with them. It's I don't get it. And that's the end, and that's stress. But when students are able to even adjust that even a little to I don't get this yet, it then helps them to move forward and say, okay, well, what can I do to understand this? Who do I need to ask for help? And as they build that confidence, the positive self-talk becomes that much more positive. It becomes, I can do this, I will do this, and I will do this well. So that's a skill that takes some time, but it's important for students to realize the skills and talents and abilities they have in themselves. I see it every day with my students. I know how wonderfully capable they are, but I also know it's hard for them to see that sometimes. So to work on that positive self-talk is incredible for our students. And secondly, there's self-advocacy, which is reaching out for help based on students' needs. So that is the student reaching out to their teacher, their counselor, trusted adults or community members, their parents, and saying that I need help or I need extra support. And it's making sure that their voices are heard because their voices are important. Oftentimes in education, we don't know what our students might need help on if they don't say it first. So when students can develop that self-advocacy tool, that really serves them because then they're going to get extra help. They're going to get extra resources and supports and things that will help them be successful. So that's where the point of success is, that it is a two-way street, and there are things the students can do, and there are things that us as educators can do to help our students be successful. Attendance matters. I say it here in the title, and I truly mean that. Attendance is a lifelong skill, and it is so important to have consistent and on-time attendance. We say it in the building, and it's all the more important for virtual learning, which has not only been a big transition, but since our students were not accustomed to virtual learning when we had to start, the fact that attendance had to keep up. When students are in class, they're going to get used to it. They're going to find success. So let's talk about attendance. Research shows that students who regularly attend school on time have higher levels of success. They graduate on time. They continue on to college or trade school or the military, so some type of post-secondary learning, and they stay there. They complete what they started. And they, of course, while they're in high school and middle school, they have better grades and they're happier in school. They're more willing to learn. So higher levels of success, not only in an academic way, but also on a social, personal, emotional way. Whereas students who are frequently absent are at a higher risk of failing classes and in heavy cases dropping out or delaying their graduation. And in these cases, that can have significant impact on student confidence. It can have impacts on their focus and their willingness to go forward and have education past high school. So with attendance, it's important for students to be in class on time, willing and ready to learn. On Class Dojo, ULA will post the student schedules for their 6th through 12th graders on Class Dojo in a PDF format. We did that semester 1, and we'll be doing that for semester 2 as well, to make sure that students and parents all have access to their students' full expected schedules for the year. And where there may be some small adjustments when we do post that, please be sure to look at the schedules to see where things may have changed, because sometimes electives change. So that means they'll be in different classes and they will have a little bit different schedule to get used to. But we also post in Google Classroom. The teachers post the days and times that they meet, both in their stream. And I've noticed a lot of teachers in the banner at the very top of their Google Classroom will have the days and times that they meet posted for students to see. So that way, if a student doesn't know, they can go right to the Google Classroom and have all the information they need. In the event that a student does not see the day or time or just wants to make sure it's correct, because maybe there's a difference between what the teacher posted and what's in their schedule according to Class Dojo, the students can email their teachers through their Google Classroom on their G Suite email in order to clarify that with the teacher. So I recommend once we post that, take the opportunity to look through that with your students to make sure that you and them are both familiar with the schedule, So that way there's a higher chance of them attending class, because if you don't know when class is, they're not going to be there. And it's as simple as that sometimes. For our high school students, attendance is especially important because in high school you start earning the credits towards graduation. So credits are like points that you earn for the classes that you pass. And unfortunately, if you miss class too many times and you have poor attendance in your classes, it can result in the loss of credit for graduation, which is one of those things that will delay graduation or mean that students have to make it up with Keystone packets later in their high school career, which can cause some added stress. So that's why attendance matters. Attendance is a skill that's going to follow them. They're going to have to be on time to their jobs, their college classes, or whatever post-secondary training they attend. So that's something to start practicing now. We do offer a lot of academic monitoring and support tools at ULA. So the first is PowerSchool. Students and parents can monitor their grades and attendance by logging into the student and parent accounts. And that's how they can keep on with things. And if they see that they are not doing as well, or if there was a misprint in attendance, they can reach out to the teachers to clarify and get support. Additionally, we do offer academic counseling. So I also use PowerSchool to monitor grades and attendance patterns for my students. And so I will often reach out to students, or students can reach out to me, whether it's through email, or I do have a Google form available to students to schedule meetings according to when they feel comfortable and ready to meet. But in those meetings, we identify academic concerns and struggles, and we talk about the reasoning behind that and then set goals to improve their success. I make sure that they have the supports, the resources, the correct emails that they need to reach out to the appropriate personnel, and to make sure that they work to find some goals and confidence for themselves to help them see success. And that's offered at all HES Academies. So it's important to reach out and make sure your student is familiar with their counselor. Now with our teachers and even with peers, there's after-school tutoring opportunities. So many of our teachers have after-school tutoring, or office hours, they'll call them, where students can stop in to ask questions. Maybe they had a couple questions from their lecture that they wrote down in their notes, and it's a good opportunity once class ends or via email to set up a chance with the teacher after school hours to ask those questions, get extra support, or maybe even retake a test if it's within our retake opportunities. Sometimes our students learn better from each other, just depending on how they understand material. If the students feel that they would learn better from a peer, have them set up a study circle with their friends where they can talk about what they learned in school without sharing answers or homework, of course, but make sure that they understand the concept. So if a student is struggling with math, but their friend really gets it, that's a good opportunity to get not only some social interaction, but also improve the academics that the students are seeing. So I really recommend looking for those opportunities to make sure that your students are getting the fullest that they can from their teachers and their peers, and of course themselves. And finally, there's plenty of online resources available, or applications for mobile devices. So online, I really recommend Khan Academy, YouTube, College Board for our high school students who are getting ready for PSAT or SAT testing. These are a wonderful opportunity. So Khan Academy especially has grade level and class level separate pages where they have different resources, videos, interactive like worksheets to do. And it's everything from kindergarten to 12th grade pre-calculus. So it's a really great opportunity to go on there and use that when you're available to do so, especially if something isn't clicking from the tutoring, or if you just want a little extra support when they're working. I really recommend Khan Academy. It is one of my favorites to use, and it is a free resource as well, as is YouTube and College Board. And then on applications, there are time management apps, there are organization apps, there are online calendars and agendas that our students can use independently to make sure that they are staying on top of their materials and completing assignments and tasks on time. You can find these in any app store, and I can share some more resources in some of our Google Classrooms. And that is one more thing. So for students at ULA, I do have Google Classroom set up for specific grade levels, and I will post materials in there from time to time. So if you are in one of those groups for my students, please feel free to look at that and make sure you're getting information that you feel is important. So for the second half of this, we're going to talk to effective communication, which is not only a study skill, but a long-term success skill. So clear and positive communication is critical to success. And I say clear and positive, and I do mean those two things. When you keep it positive and keep it clear, you're going to get answers that you appreciate and respect, and hopefully will answer what you asked. Clear and positive communication and effective communication ensures that students' concerns are voiced and understood appropriately. And then it also helps that students will understand others in their answers and in their concerns as well. When students are able to ask questions and speak and communicate effectively, they're going to get better answers in return. And that's going to help move forward in communicating more effectively in the future and understanding whatever they're learning now. So effective communication, of course, creates positive relationships with others and minimizes frustration. A good example of this I thought of was when we all had to start wearing masks at the beginning of this pandemic. The communication may have gotten more frustrating with having a mask blocking some of the sound and some of the enunciation that may be typically present. It got to be very frustrating to have a conversation when you couldn't understand what was happening from the other person. So by finding effective ways to communicate, you eliminate some of that frustration and help keep things more positive in your relationships with others. And according to several research opportunities, effective communication is one of the most, or in some cases, the most desirable skill by employers. So now is the time to really start learning about that and improving it. So that way, when our students and our children get to careers and college and scholarships, they can communicate effectively for why they deserve those opportunities. And then they can be better employees and students and people. So communication is a two-way skill. It is both speaking and listening. So when developing communication skills, students learn to be able to speak effectively and respectfully. And by that, I do mean not only the words that they're choosing to use, but the tone, volume that they use, and the way they say what they're saying, which sometimes can be more important than what you're saying is how you say it to another person. It also, students learn to be able to listen politely and respectfully. So in an effective communication, there are times where I've experienced this myself. I'm so focused on what I'm trying to say, and I've seen students the same way, that they don't hear what the second part of the conversation's about. So through learning to communicate effectively, students not only learn to speak and voice their own concerns, but listen to the responses of others as well. And it allows for points to be clearly understood and addressed, and to eliminate some of the confusion and frustration that may come from miscommunications. So communicating in the classroom is still an important part of how students interact with their teachers and their peers. And in-person classes, there are some expectations for communicating. Things like raising your hand, listening to others who are speaking when it's your turn or not interrupting others, and using an appropriate words, tone, and volume for the environment you're in. In the virtual classroom, there are some similar expectations, but they've been adjusted for specifically Google Classroom, which we use for our live sessions. So some of that includes staying muted unless it's your turn to talk, which eliminates distraction from background noise for other students, or the opportunity to interrupt what someone else may be saying. There's also a raise your hand function in the Google Classroom. This is relatively new, but in the little sidebar where they can access the chat, there is a raise your hand. Oh, I'm sorry, it's at the bottom of the screen. I'm remembering now. But they can raise their hand and a little icon appears in their square so that their teacher knows that they have a question without them having to unmute, say that they have a question, and then wait for their teacher to give them a chance. So it's just another way like they'd be in the classroom. And even if they have to wait a minute, I've seen it firsthand. It's very obvious when a student's icon pops up. Secondly is using the chat appropriately. So that's a great resource for students who may not have microphones or may feel uncomfortable unmuting themselves, but still have questions. Again, using appropriate words, tone, and volume for the environment we're in. So that may look different for virtual learning compared to being in the classroom, but still important to think about for our students. and then waiting for an appropriate time to unmute. So what I mean by that is what I've seen in classrooms is sometimes a question is so urgent that a student unmutes in the middle of their teacher sentence and blurts out a question, and the teacher tells them to wait a minute and may forget about it, or the student doesn't ask it again, and the question gets stepped over. But if the student waits for the chance for the teacher to finish the topic, to finish their sentence, or whoever the presenter may be, to unmute and ask their question, then the question can be addressed more directly. Email etiquette. Email has become such an important part of our day-to-day lives, especially since working virtually, learning virtually. And there are some important components that I have seen in mistakes through emails that I've had with even my oldest students to some of my younger students who have reached out. So here are a couple important points, and then I'll show you an example of what I mean. So first and foremost, it's to be sure the email address is correct. And I make this mistake sometimes. I'm typing too fast and I miss a part of the email and it comes back to me and I get frustrated. So I'm sure if it's happening to me, it's happening to my students as well. So to be sure that that email address is correct, and then move on to the structure of the email, starting with a greeting, hello, good morning, good afternoon, and then the recipient's name. And that ensures that the recipient is actually who you mean to send it to. Because if a student is thinking, okay, I have to email my ELA teacher and my math teacher, and then they put their ELA teacher's email address, but their math teacher's name, and then they fill out the rest of the email, the recipient isn't going to know if the question is actually for them or if it's supposed to be for the person whose name is in the body of the email. And it can be a little confusing and it can be a little stressful. So to make sure that you're sending the email to the right person and that the email address matches the name of the recipient that you're including in the email, and then to clearly, politely, and respectfully state your business or ask questions that the students have. So to make sure that they're asking what they need to ask without providing so many details that the question gets lost in translation. That's something I especially see with my upper high school students, is that they have a question, but it's lost in between a paragraph of details. And that makes it a little hard to maybe answer their question the way that they want to, and can cause some confusion on both ends. And of course, making sure punctuation and spelling are correct throughout the stating your business or asking questions, so that questions are questions and statements are statements. And that'll help with making sure the email is clear and easy to read, as well as understanding the response in the end. And then once the business has been stated, all questions are asked to end with a farewell, thank you, sincerely, have a good day, and then the student's name and grade grouping. And that really helps. It should be first and last name if the student remembers to do both, as well as the grade grouping, so that we make sure it's the right student, because in a lot of our classes, there are more than one student with the same first name, but they have different names, even if they're in the same grade grouping. And that makes sure that the teacher is responding to the right student about the right assignment for the right grade. And then bottom line is clear emails get clear answers. So I really recommend that when students are writing an email, they write it out, they look through it a second or maybe even a third time to make sure that what they're saying is what they mean, and then they can send that email. And this is especially important as students get into 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, where they're starting to apply for colleges, apply for trade schools, in the military, if they're going into that as an option, and they're applying for scholarships as well. So through the email etiquette, they're able to send emails to college representatives or scholarship committees, and then their writing is clear, and it's another positive in their favor for whatever they're trying to achieve or get. So as a couple of examples, I have two here. So the one highlighted in yellow reads, "Hi, Miss, when is the retake? I'm going to retake it. Mary S." The issue with this is it's a little vague. I don't realize that there's a question here. And I don't know if this email is really for me because my name's not there. And I don't know if it's the right student because I might have two Marys in my class or two Marys in two different classes, and I don't know who I'm talking to. So then I'm going to have to email the student back and ask them, what retake are you talking about? What grade grouping are you? Which Mary S is this? And it's going to take a little longer for a student to get an answer that they might need really soon. compared to the one on the right in green. It says, "Hi, Miss Mazey, when is the Chapter 1 test retake? I would like to retake the test. Thank you, Mary Smith, 7A." And that is much clearer. I can immediately see without even reading the email that it is intended for me. I see what chapter retake they're referring to. I see their name and their grade grouping. So I already can go into my Google Classroom. I can look at this Chapter 1, 7A, and I can make sure that there is in fact a retake for this and send her the date and the information that she is looking for. Additionally, the second email highlighted in green is clear. It's also very polite. She says thank you at the end. She included my name. And those are little things that can make a big difference in how teachers, counselors, or in the future, employers or college advisors read and interpret an email. So I really recommend if students are trying to write an effective email that they follow those basic tips: grammar and punctuation, make sure it sounds polite, and that your question is clearly stated or your business is clearly stated. Email etiquette is also something I posted in some of my Google Classrooms so that the students can refer back to that when trying to send an email that may be longer than a sentence or two. So that's what I have for today, but I'm happy to take questions, and then I can share my contact information as well. In the event that any ULA parents would like to schedule a meeting or have questions regarding their students' academics, I'm happy to reach out both via email and a Google Voice number that I have provided here as well. I have two ULA email addresses. One is the G Suite version instead. So at this time, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Mazey, for this great presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
It has so many useful information. If a student asks, what's the importance of, the greeting and, also the, thank you at the end of the email, isn't that kind of like wasting time doing that? Can you explain the importance of that? Yeah.
Absolutely, I can. So the importance of having a greeting and a farewell, so hello and thank you or sincerely, that's important because it's basic manners, it's politeness, and it makes that person feel like you are asking them specifically and that you want their help specifically because you trust that they're able to help you and that you appreciate their time, because it does take time to respond to emails and to provide guidance and help. So to provide both a hello and a farewell can be very important for the way someone interprets an email as polite and clear.
What is the importance of punctuation in emails?
Punctuation plays a very important part in emails, just like it does in writing in school. It just allows for clarity. So if a student, as in my first example, they said, "When is the retake?" but the sentence ends with a punctuation mark of a period instead of a question mark, I don't initially interpret it as a question. I see it as a statement. And it may take just a little more time for me to read that email, especially if there's other questions involved. It's important to have clarity in a question mark for a question and a period for a statement.
Thank you. And with that, we over here don't have any more questions.
Okay. Well, I am happy to take emails or anything that people, if they have other requests.
Thank you very much. And we wish all the students who are studying for their semester 2 exams the best of luck with their exams. And I just want to make an announcement before we end that Monday, January 18, 2021 will be an off day because it's the Martin Luther King's Day. And with that, we're going to end with a video that was prepared by Star International Academy students a couple of years ago about Martin Luther King Jr. and how he inspired those students. Thank you, Ms. Mazey, again for your beautiful presentation, and hopefully we'll see you again in another family engagement broadcast.
Absolutely. Feel free to call on me.
I want to thank the 80s.
Honorable mention at, can we start over?
And
just cut the last part out.
Sure.
And well, I'm so sorry. Last one, I swear to God.
It's on our mind. Ugh, I messed up, but it's okay.
Hi, I'm Serene McHowie. I'm the 12th grade teacher here at Star International Academy. I'm really excited that 7 of my students got honorable mentions for the ADC MLK Scholarship. They really worked really hard in the creative writing and literature of a theme class for the specific scholarship, and they did a wonderful job.
My name is Adil Fouadi, and I just won the ADC scholarship about how MLK impacted us today in our community.
My name is Finney Adam, and I'm a senior at Star International Academy. And I'm honored to have won this award because it's on MLK and how his actions has affected me as an individual.
People don't realize that MLK led a lot of civil rights movements that made sure that just because we're minorities, we aren't treated less than anyone else.
My name is Fatim Karani and I'm a senior here at Star International Academy. As an Arab American, MLK inspires me not to be to stand up and not to allow people to discriminate against me and my kind. And as a woman who wears a headscarf, MLK means a lot to me because he taught people equality and that it's for everybody and not just for a certain group of people.
My name is Ibrahim Juni. I am a senior at Star International Academy and I am honored to be a recipient in the MLK ADC Award Scholarship.
It's affected me drastically because being the person I am and just in the way I do, it's not always easy for someone like me. But because of MLK, I can actually say it's not always easy rather than saying it's not easy at all. Thank you.
It means a lot to me to be honorably mentioned by the ADC because every time we used to write scholarships in class, I used to see pictures of winners and it always seemed far-fetched. I never actually thought that person would be me, but this shows me that hard work actually pays off at the end and your effort is never gone to waste.
My name is Sajal Saloom. I'm a senior at Star International Academy and I'm receiving the award for the ADC MLK Scholarship. As a female of Arab descent, being underrepresented is something normal, and MLK is someone who inspires people like me to stand up against discrimination and to fight for their rights.
Hi, my name is Shannon from Star International Academy. As an Arab American who wears the headscarf, I understand and can relate to what MLK fought for. He inspired many of us to not be afraid to speak our minds and fight for equality. I represent everyone who has been looked down upon, and it's great to have my voice heard.
Hi, I'm Emma Frager. I'm a high school counselor here at Star International Academy. Very excited for our students here. They've done an amazing job with all their scholarship opportunities. We were able to achieve $7 million in scholarship this year, and the ADC MLK, is definitely part of that. Very proud of them, and we're excited for the future and continuing our amazing scholarship program.
This is Mr. Mazey, the principal over at Star International Academy. It's been a great start to our senior season with our senior class, with winning lots of scholarship. And one in particular, we had 7 students win in on the Martin Luther King scholarship. We're very proud of them. And we've raised to date $7 million in scholarships for all our students. We've had multiple students get full ride scholarships to the University of Michigan, which again is great, but now we want to kind of increase that number and really double that number by next year. Again, it's been a great year. Students have really bought into our pillars and really the mission at Star here. We'll continue to strive and we're going to get better and better as the years come on.